Shwmai a croeso cynnes, and welcome to the What's Your Story podcast. I'm James Owen, a Welsh filmmaker and storyteller, and I'm passionate about sharing stories. This podcast is all about business owners sharing their journey, and we'll be speaking with directors, entrepreneurs and creatives from all across Wales to learn from their experiences. We believe everyone has a story to tell. What's your story? Shwmai, and welcome to the next instalment of the What's Your Story podcast. We've got a fun one today. Most people in business think numbers are boring, but Lloyd from Llama Accounting loves numbers and has helped me make numbers fun. So I actually enjoy looking at my accounts when it comes to business. Yeah, today we've got Lloyd Hughes from Llama Accounting. Lloyd, thanks for coming down.
Thanks for having me.
That's okay. Disclaimer, Lloyd is actually my accountant. He's flipping amazing. I think we've been, Stori Cymru's been a customer of yours for, 3 years?
3 or 4 years. Yeah. One of the early adopters.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay. Who's actually your longest standing customer? Are you allowed to say that? Is that like data protection?
No, maybe a data protection. There's an electrician firm in Caerphilly that's been with us from the start. One of the very first.
Yeah. Fair play. And how are they doing?
Very well. Yeah, still going. Yeah.
Must have a good accountant.
Must have.
Good. No, I really appreciate you coming on. And I'd love to hear a little bit about the story about Llama Accounting, how it all got started, how it's developed over time. We met each other back in 2020, and that was at the birth of what is now today Llama Accounting. But talk me through a bit about your journey and just share a little summary, 2 or 3 sentences about who you are and what Llama does.
Yeah, so like you say, I'm Lloyd. I'm a qualified accounts technician, AAT, and a qualified certified chartered accountant, the ACCA. So we operate in a niche almost with small owner-managed micro businesses, I think is the fashionable term for it. But it tends, small businesses that are managed and run by the owners. So that's the niche that we carve out. Try to help them understand their numbers, make sure that they're compliant with filing all the various tax returns and stuff that they need to do, and just helping them use those and understand those numbers to help them continue to grow and continue to trade.
Awesome. And if you're listening or watching, these guys are bloody good, okay? I got to say that. So talk me through, because surely I think there's a bit of a misconception maybe. If you're good at maths in school, then accounting is a job for you. Is that right?
No. So very little of what we do is, being able to add and subtract numbers sort of in your head. Obviously, you need to understand what numbers mean and how different numbers relate to each other, spot patterns in the numbers, but there's a lot more regulation rather than simply being able to add up and take away. Like, not very good at my times tables, but I can spot if something looks out of place in a sheet, a wall of numbers. So yeah, a bit of a misconception. I wasn't particularly fond of maths in school. I did okay, but I wasn't by no means. I didn't do it for A level or anything. Yeah.
Good. So you're from Cymru.
Yeah,
that's your sort of area where you grew up. So talk to me a bit about your journey when you left school then, because I would assume maybe, did you go and study finance in university?
I did not. So I've got a degree. I went to the University of Leicester, and my degree is actually in American Studies.
Wow.
So
does that make you an expert on the USA?
To a degree. So there's a lot of history and politics involved in it. The main attraction of it was that I got to do a year studying in America. So I went to university in America for a year, 2003, 2004 in Virginia, George Mason University. And it's exactly like the films. Yeah, fantastic year. Played rugby out there for a year. Did a little bit of sort of touring around. But yeah, it was a degree that I suppose school used to tell you, you've got to do your exams, you've got to do your A levels, you've got to go to university. That's going to get you a job. But when I finished, what was I going to do ultimately with that degree? I don't, it's an interesting subject, but it's not a, vocational subject by sort of any stretch. So picked up, skills and stuff that I still use today, I suppose. But in terms of, did it help me with my career? Probably not.
So you graduated, you spent a whole year out in America, which was pretty cool. You finished your degree in Leicester. So what was the sort of next step for you? Because I guess you go to university. I did a film degree, right? And I did that I kind of half knew what I wanted to do a couple of years ago. So I went there specifically to actually, pursue that career in that field of it, that field I studied in, right? So yeah, were you thinking, what sort of job can I do with American studies?
Yeah. So I suppose I never really knew what I wanted to do. So that's probably why I ended up doing a degree that was a sort of all catch-all degree, lots of different disciplines, but it didn't really lead naturally to a job. It's not like a law degree where you then move in and you do your professional qualifications. So I just came home as soon as I graduated. I had applied to various sort of graduate schemes with different big organizations, but without really, any ambition to do anything specific. So I came home, I ended up on the dole for a bit. And I always think of things in sporting terms. So it was, I love that. It was the Ashes, 2005, I think. Sort of on the dole, just watching cricket in my mum's house all day. Eventually,
what a life as a grad.
She made me go and get a job. And I ended up working for HMRC in the call centre there in Cardiff. So that was when I was first introduced to tax, because sort of prior to that, don't have any knowledge, do you? Most people don't know anything about tax. You just see it come out of your pay slip. So started to learn, about income tax, national insurance, VAT, all the different types of taxes. And civil service wasn't a bad sort of place to end up. I sort of thought, well, I could stay here for the rest of my, the next 40, 50 years, whatever it is, have a nice little pension at the end, and that was it. But it wasn't, it didn't give me any sort of fulfillment at all. It was simply just a job, no different really to any other job I'd ever had, whether that's working in the local spa or working in a pub while I was in uni. So I ended up thinking about two things, and the first thing I looked at was a PGCE, so going into teaching, and it would have been teaching Welsh as a second language in a English language comprehensive. But my dad was a teacher, and at the time he was saying, "You haven't got the temperament for it. It's not something you wanted to go into." And the other thing I thought about then was, well, I've already gained a sort of bit of expertise in tax, far from being an expert in it at the time. But I've started to understand taxes. So I wrote 50 letters to different accountancy firms in Cardiff and Newport. Got 2 replies. And ended up starting working for one of those.
You sent 50 letters to different companies and 2 responded.
2 replied, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, okay. So went to work for one of those. They put me through my, so Mazuma is the company. They put me through my professional qualifications, and their business was absolutely taking off, beginning to fly. They moved locations, and it was difficult for me with the commute from where I was living at the time. So I ended up moving to a different accountancy firm with a slightly different client base. They would do audits, so bigger clients. So
this Mazuma company, then, I'm guessing, was mainly dealing with smaller companies at the time.
Very, very similar to sort of what we do now in terms of micro businesses, owner managed businesses. They really efficient system. Really great, really slick, everything. Everybody there was great. And then the company that I moved to, KTS Owens Thomas, a bit more of a traditional accountants, I suppose, that were, they had bigger clients, but less clients, specific tax departments, audit departments, more exposure to the different disciplines within accountancy, I suppose. And they were much closer to where I was living at the time. And interestingly, they were the other ones that had replied to me with that initial letter. So I ended up working for both of the companies that replied to me.
Well, that's a cool story.
Yeah.
Because out of everyone you asked, literally, quite bold, said, look, I want to work in industry. Have you got any jobs?
Yeah.
And those two people you end up working for.
Yeah. So, it must have been written.
It must have been written. So, you've worked for two very different accounting firms in and around sort of the Cardiff, South Wales area. What were some of the things you learned when working in those businesses? Because you've worked in HMRC, you started to understand the tax world and all what that has to offer, regulations. Did you then think in these two companies, this is something maybe I could do down the line?
Well, I suppose not really. It wasn't something that I was thinking at the time. This is something that I'm happy in practice. This is what I want to be doing.
You were quite happy to be an employee.
An employee, exactly, because that's what's always been sort of drummed in. I think naturally that's what I always thought was my place would be working for somebody rather than trying to do something myself. So yeah, learned a lot. Obviously, not just the technical knowledge that the superb training that both companies gave, and the people that you worked with there with all their experience. It's just speaking to business owners regularly something starts to tick away and thinking, well, I would actually like to have more control over what I'm doing. I ended up leaving. So there was a customer that I used to go to, and it was like an outsourced finance function. So they would pay an amount, and I would go there for a certain amount of days per month to cover their month end reports, etc. And I ended up going to work for them. So leaving the practice side where you've got accounts for lots of companies to working for a company, but in the accounts department and sort of being in charge of that accounts department. So a different sort of coming at it from a different angle again. So you've come at it from HMRC's angle, come at it from the external accountant's angle, and now coming at it from the internal accountant's angle, working in industry. And then I suppose at that time, working in industry became the sort of ambition, working up potentially to like a financial director, somebody, but you'd still be working for someone. So I stayed there for a few years doing that before moving on again. Still within industry for a much bigger company, a FTSE 100 company that had a very strict sort of month-end reporting timeline, and it was a lot of overtime at month-end.
Very corporate place?
Very corporate, yeah, very corporate. Obviously FTSE 100 is specific things that they have to do every month, both internally and externally, and huge pressures in terms of tight deadlines for getting stuff done. And it was too much for me to put those hours in every month. So while I was working there was actually where I met Matt, who's my business partner at Llama now. And it was when we started a side hustle for just doing accounts and tax returns for friends and family.
So this is going, like 2017?
2017, yeah. So 2017, we started only a handful of clients, just doing a little bit here and there for friends or family or friends of friends that needed their accounts doing. Never really thought of it at the time as anything more than a side hustle. But yeah, it started to grow as the friends of friends and friends of family.
It was just sort of natural growth. A friend would recommend somebody and you just naturally build it while you work in this, both of you working full time for accounts of this large FTSE 100 company. It was just naturally growing. Yeah,
exactly that. So, the time limits we had meant that we didn't have a huge amount of time to be able to devote to a side hustle. So there was obviously a ceiling almost right from the beginning there. But yeah, it just started to sort of tick over and plant the seed, I suppose, of this could grow to more than just an extra beer money or whatever it was we were thinking of it at the time.
Did it have similarities like HMRC in terms of the culture and working there? Because
no, I mean HMRC was really good to work at because it was call center. You wore your own clothes, whereas the FTSE 100 company, it was not shirt and tie as such, but it was a lot more restrictive in terms of what you expect a workplace for a big company to be like.
Because you were in this very corporate world. What was the name of the company?
DS Smith.
DS Smith. Okay. So you obviously were starting to realize, okay, this is probably not where I want to be long term. And did you get asked to have your old job back?
Yes. Yeah. So the person that had replaced me when I left the old company had left. So just a chance encounter really with my former boss there. She said, well, do you fancy coming back? I think she probably asked me in the middle of month end. So it was an instant yes. And the other thing then was that she was going off on maternity leave as well. So she was going off on maternity leave. They didn't have anyone to cover her. So she asked me if I'd fancy sort of running that company for her maternity leave. So I ended up running a company that was part of a big sort of global group of companies owned by a Swedish entity, running a 6 million turnover company in the valleys.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a step up.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a challenge. It's one of those things I sort of said yes to and thought, well, I'll work out how I would do it later on. But yeah, it was a great learning experience in terms of not just the finance bit of how a business runs, pulling all the different, the sales team together or the warehouse team, the admin team, just working with all the different aspects of a business rather than being one of those functions sort of pushing against the others. So yeah, it was a really valuable 12, 18 months.
And that was maternity cover. Did your contract just finish?
Yeah, so she came back. I went back to the finance manager role. And it was almost like once it's come out the box, it can't go back in the box, and I'm starting to look for roles with more responsibility, not just in a financial setting. So the practice is growing more and more at this time as well. I went into contracting for a period then, so worked with some big companies on a contracting temp basis, whilst the company, Llama or Hughes and Stern as it was at the time, continued to sort of grow and tick over in the background. And then lockdown, COVID happened.
Oh, great.
And that was really the opportunity to sort of push on with the accountancy practice. And yeah, it sort of went crazy. You think back to that time where people were on furlough, people were at home a lot. Lots and lots of new businesses got started during that period, or it seemed like lots and lots of businesses got started during that period, and they were all in addition. So side hustles, a lot of side hustles started during that period.
I think it's very true. The statistics back that up. There was a huge growth in business creation, and
then that naturally we seemed to fit new businesses quite well in terms of what we offer and the services we offer. So it just sort of came from there. And then obviously all the extra time by not being allowed to do anything just gave us more time to work on it.
So you started in 2017, register this business. There's an opportunity here where, during lockdown, you've got that shot at actually going in and running that business full time with Matt. So where does Llama fit into this? So
at the time we were called Hughes and Stern. And I had a meeting with one of my old bosses from KTS, a guy called Craig Blackmore, where we sort of just running through, what am I doing at the minute? So explaining, we're trying to get this accountancy practice off the ground, this forward thinking, this modern, digital driven accountancy practice. So he said, what's the name? So I told him Hughes and Stern. He said, yes, it sounds great. You've got this modern, forward thinking business. But he said, you got a name from the 1800s. So he had a point. It was just our names. So we started to look for, a name that sort of reflected the business personality better. And I think at the time there was a new Apple release where they released a load of new emojis, and a llama was one of the new emojis. So we picked that as the name.
Get out.
Yes, yeah. So
genuinely, the iPhone gave you that idea.
Yeah, genuinely. We're looking for something that's not just our names, something that's fun. Not quirky is the wrong word, but something that's a little less serious and a little less daunting as a name than Hughes and Stern. And that was what gave it. And then we found out, it came to me later, that Llama. So if you take the first two letters of my name, so the double L, then the A for and then the first two letters of Matt's name spells Llama. So the official story then becomes...
Well, It was all a lie.
Yeah.
All this time. When I met you, that was the story you gave me. Was, Lloyd and Matt, make Llama.
Yeah,
that's kind of...
But it was Apple's release.
Well, you can thank Steve. No, not Steve Jobs. I mean, Tim Cook, maybe.
No idea. But that's how it was born. And it gave us more opportunities, to have fun in terms of marketing and just presenting that image that we wanted to.
And it's probably quite stereotypical of accountancy firms to act in let's say, an 1800s type way. So actually, to stand up from the crowd and be modern and forward thinking has got to be a great USP for you guys.
Oh, absolutely. And you take the same inspiration from Mazuma that I worked from. It's a name that conveys that not all accountants are boring grey men in suits. We deal with our clients on a level that they understand and on a level that they want to sort of engage at. So yeah, it made a lot more sense. Trying to market yourself as not a traditional accountant, but with a traditional accountant's name just didn't make any sense.
No, it's good. I think you've set a precedent, and well, it certainly got my attention. Because we met in, was it 2020? Must have been like July or June 2020.
It was a hot day. I remember coming down on the train.
Very hot day.
Yeah,
I was sweating that day. Yeah, we filmed we were both part of a business community called Business Butler, and so we got an opportunity to film your bio. And at this point, I'd never met you, and at the time, I was looking for an accountant. I'll tell you a bit of a story, because when I set up in 2019, I just registered a business, and actually I registered my own business because at the time when I was a student, I was actually in debt, and I was in like the bad personal kind of debt, not like student loan debt. It was like I actually had years ago people knocking on my door and you owe us money, So I mean that's another story. But for me, I wanted to register the business as a limited company. There's a sort of advice I'd had of people where, well, if you've got assets in the business name, then nobody can take it off you. I think I've since learned it's not as simple as that, because I think there are ways that, I don't think it has as much liability and protection as it once did. So I think, but then you hear lots of stories about people setting up businesses, going to liquidation, starting up another, which I don't think is very ethical or right. But yeah, for me, I decided to set up this business, and somebody I had met through my sort of local community in Furness. They were an accountant, and got to meet them. They were referred to me. I thought, right, I'm going to go with this guy. And at the time, we were discussing how much I'd have to pay in fees and all this. And he said, James, I really believe in you. I like what you're doing. I'm going to give you a year's worth of accounting free of charge. I thought, amazing, this is great, right? So I thought, I've set up my business, I've got an accountant. Now, this accountant, I never heard of him again. Now, he gave me a year's worth of free advice, and I was at a point where I was like, well, my year end's coming up soon, and I haven't really got an active accountant. And we started, we got connected, and you recorded like almost a bio, a bit of a personal thing, bio about you and Llama Accounting. And that was like a 2-3 minute video to piece of camera. And you sold it to me. I was like, this guy, he knows his stuff, and he's for small businesses like me. And it was instantly, I was like, Lloyd, what's your email? Let's meet. And then I signed up on the day, became a customer. So yeah, for me, I thought, how you deal with business owners is just for me, something quite innovative. And over the years, you've helped support me and got me a mortgage. It's a nightmare trying to get a mortgage if you're self-employed. It really is. If you're employed, 3 months of pay slips to the lender, boom, there are mortgage in principle. It was a lot more challenging for me. So to have all that support over the years is great. And I just met from this connection. But back in 2020, you sort of experienced significant growth, which is great for you and Matt. Llama was actually thriving and growing.
Yeah, and it became, once the contract finished, they asked me to renew it, and I didn't renew it. It was time. It was time. There was enough work with Llama to be able to sort of do it full time. And going back to like the service, what we try to do, I think, is learn from how the big companies deal with their finances. The bigger companies are looking at their numbers regularly. They're looking backwards and they're looking forwards, and particularly probably focusing more on looking forwards than they are at looking backwards. And it's trying to bring that to small businesses is where we've sort of pitched ourselves, I guess, is that helping businesses to understand their numbers. Because, everybody almost that I speak to on a client level, one of the first things they'll say to me is, I hate accounts. I don't want to look at them. I'm not interested.
I really enjoy it.
And
when I go into Xero and look at my numbers, it's like, I kind of feel like, I think I could run an accountancy practice. I wouldn't want to do it because it's a lot of work, right? A lot of pressure. But I actually enjoy understanding. And it's, some people in business don't like looking at a bank account. Well, I do, because if you don't look at your bank account, if you don't look at your accounting software, you don't know where you're at in business. Okay, do I need more sales this month? Do I need to spend more or less?
Yeah.
It's always spend less.
Yeah.
It's good to understand the numbers because it gives you a picture of how the business is doing.
It's evidence then. It's evidence in terms of how the business is doing. It's evidence that you can use to make those strategic decisions to grow. Pick up on costs that you've got. That are you actually getting a return on these costs? Are there subscriptions that I've forgotten about? The same as anybody has with their personal accounts. And it's just staying on top of them. It makes tax planning a lot easier as well when you're looking as you go along, so you can spot opportunities to do things that might save you some tax. And it's really the sort of development in software now versus when I started it's almost real time. Yeah, you've almost got real time access to your figures. So why wouldn't you use them?
And what sort of tools are out there now in the sort of accounting space, software, AI, emerging tech? What sort of things exist out there that makes accounting easier for businesses?
Yeah, so the software is the sort of biggest development in terms of what I've seen since I first started working in accounts compared to now. And it's the cloud solution is obviously the first one. And then there are a lot of tools that work with your bookkeeping software that automate things. So we work quite a lot with Dext. We work quite a lot with HubDoc, which is a Dext equivalent that feeds in. So that process where you used to have somebody having to sit there and put in every single invoice, there's a robot that does it now. And that's only gonna sort of exponentially grow in terms of what AI can do. It's not fully automated, but it's coming. It's semi-automated now, and where we are at is trying to find areas where we can sort of use AI or automation to save us time, save the client's time, which ultimately saves the client money, lets them focus on what they're good at.
Brilliant. Now, Llama Accounting, where do you see yourselves really helping and supporting businesses in South Wales? What do you look for when you're searching for maybe helping supporting prospective clients?
So I think the main thing is helping them understand their numbers, helping them get to know their numbers, what the numbers mean. Getting a system in place a lot of the time is a big help. I think, like we were just talking about there, with the advancement of AI and automation within our industry, the compliance stuff is going to get more and more automated. So the filing of tax returns is going to get more and more automated. And I think ultimately the software pitch to businesses is going to be, you don't need an accountant now because you can do it all through the software.
Ooh, so is that a good thing?
Well, the compliance then is where I think we add the most value for our customers. So it's the regular conversations, it's the this means this. Have you thought about this? And also because of the fact that we're dealing with so many different small businesses, we're picking up things from other businesses that we can then sort of, well, apply to ourselves for number one, but we can also sort of pass on to other customers in terms of things that they are doing. Someone's doing well that someone else might not be doing very well or might not have thought about. So it's the compliance is the thing. Not the compliance. It's the consultancy, the advisory service that we're offering is probably, I think, where we're offering the most value for our customers.
That's the USP, I think, because Xero isn't going to tell you or give you advice.
Exactly. And that's the place we've got to put ourselves.
Good. And for you guys, what's next? What's the journey for Llama Accounting?
So at the moment, it's trying to get out of the business and work on the business a bit more. So, we've got staff that work for us now, trying to free up some time for us as directors to direct the business rather than spend all of our time working in the business, because that gives you a ceiling, right? So there's only a finite amount of time that you've got as an individual. If you're filling all of that time with sort of in the business work, there's no time then to grow the business. So at the minute, we're in a position where we're freeing up more time, trying to work on sort of internal processes, standardization of things that we do for people, which is going to allow us then to grow, bring in more staff, bring on more customers, and take it from there.
Good. Yeah, that's really exciting. I think it's important as a business owner is to acknowledge what is working on the business, what's working in the business. I've learned that over the years. When you start off, you have to work in the business, right? And work on the business. And maybe you got that flexibility. But as you grow and you bring on more clients, it becomes more difficult. I think it's good to have that level of accountability, whether that's with a coach, whether that's in your network, with friends in business, colleagues. I think it's good to have that accountability and say, oh, look, where are you going with this? And are you working on the business? Are you working in the business? Because if you 99% of the time work in the business, that business and that passion you have can slowly dwindle. It has happened to me over the years. I love making films, right? Sometimes I've had to be in positions where it's less about the filmmaking and more about the client work, and then there have been times where I haven't enjoyed it so much.
Yeah, and it's that goal setting and that monitoring of your progress, which is where some sort of service like the service we offer can come in. Is if you want to get to X amount turnover in the next 3 years, is monitoring it as you go along, tweak anything that's not working, whether that's reducing cost or increasing income. It's having a goal, but monitoring your progress against that goal.
Good stuff. Well, this podcast is all about good stories. And I'd love to hear from you, Lloyd. Who would be somebody, whether it's in industry, somebody influential, you're an avid football supporter, so it could be somebody in the football world. Who would you love to hear sitting in the chair in front of you? Whose story would you love to hear?
So I'd really love to hear. During lockdown, I got into my family tree. So going through the family tree, and it's my great grandfather on my father's side was in the Welsh Guards in World War II, and he fought at Monte Cassino. So I'd really would have loved to have heard his story. He survived and came back, but obviously I never got to meet him. But I would really like to hear about that. Yeah,
Welsh Guards and the history of that. Wow, okay, yeah, that'd be the. I bet you've enjoyed doing some research and getting to learn some of those family stories.
Absolutely. And a history nerd as well. Right up my street.
You've got to be a history nerd if you studied a degree in American studies.
Yeah, absolutely.
The expert on the US of A.
Yes.
Yeah, good. Okay, if anyone wants to learn more about Llama Accounting and about what you and Matt do in Llama, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Best way would be via our website, so llamaaccounting.com, Instagram, I think it's at Llama Accounting. Find us there.
LinkedIn? Are you on LinkedIn?
I'm on LinkedIn, yeah.
Don't use it.
Yeah, but I don't use it, no.
Great. I really enjoyed you coming on, and thanks for sharing a bit about your business journey, and to see where Llama is now from when I met 4 years ago. It's grown dramatically, and hopefully as you grow, we can support one another and help one another grow in both our businesses.
It's the name of the game, yeah.
Name of the game. Thank you for coming on. Diolch yn fawr.
Dim problem. Thank you.